Hello, everybody. I'm just getting a little situated here. Should be ready to start playing in a few minutes here. Let me just... All right. I hope everyone is doing well tonight. We are going to be playing the 2007 Conan game tonight for the 360. I got this on my backwards compatible Xbox Series X stuff here, which is pretty cool. I love the backwards compatible options that Microsoft has. They seem to be the company that's doing it the best just this generation. Nintendo was always my favorite for that with the Virtual Console that they had on the Wii and the Wii U. But I don't know, the kind of a la carte subscription system where you have to pay to kind of play all of the games is a little not, it's not as cool. I wish you could just buy the games and own them. And that's what Microsoft lets you do with their stuff. And their account system is better than Nintendo, so you don't have to rebuy them every generation. Alright, so we're going to start a new game. I did finish this game finally last night. The last boss was a total bitch. But I'm going to play this one here for you. What? I don't know what that is. I should be signed in. That's really strange. Huh. It says I'm signed in. What are these lies? Sorry, I'm gonna just restart the game here. Yeah, but this game is really fun. I would recommend it to people that have Xboxes. I guess I'll pretend that I'm not signed in because the game doesn't want to recognize it at the moment. We'll play on medium. One of the things that's really cool about this is it kind of opens with the framing of a woman telling the legend of Conan to someone around a campfire, and she quotes the iconic ending of Phoenix on the Sword, as you'll see here.
Conan's lust for adventure and gold led him to Valmoria, a solitary island lost far west in the sea. He made his way toward a long-forgotten tomb on the highest peak, and there he departed.
All right. So one of the cool things about this game is Ron Perlman voices Conan in this, which is pretty awesome. He was actually supposed to play Conan in an animated version of the Red Nails story, one of the Robert E. Howard stories, that unfortunately was in production. There's actually some existing animation of it you can find on YouTube. But that film was never finished for reasons that I'm unaware of at the moment. I haven't looked into a ton regarding the production of that film, so I don't know why it never finished. Maybe they ran out of funding, I'm not really sure. But in any case, that would have been cool. It says that I stopped playing remotely. I just want to make sure that I'm okay here. Yeah, I think I'm good. There we go. So yeah, Ron Perlman, of course, went on to play Conan's father in the 2011 Conan reboot with Jason Momoa. Makes me wonder if Ron Perlman was a Conan fan. Which I would not be surprised. So this game, for those who can't tell by looking at the gameplay, is sort of a God of War clone. It's probably the kindest way of putting it. It's heavily inspired by God of War. And the combat is pretty well designed, I would have to say. I do enjoy it quite a bit, even despite its derivativeness. I've never actually played any of the original God of War games, or even the reboot, because I've never owned a PlayStation console, and of course those are exclusive to Sony's platform, that being one of their major exclusive franchises. But yeah. This is the closest I've played to a God of War game, and I quite enjoy this one, I have to say. I spec'd my Conan in the last playthrough I did as mainly dual wield. I think in this next one I might go sword and shield. Because I bought, you'll see as I keep playing here, you can buy abilities that are that kind of improve your character's combat abilities with either one hand and a shield, a two-hander, or a dual wield. So as you can see, I just picked up a two-hander here.
The statues live.
Well, this is a big guy. The key to this game is knowing when to dodge. Oh, as I say that, I get rocked by this guy. Is knowing when to dodge and when to block. Because if you don't time that stuff right, you'll get pretty messed up by the enemies in this. As the game goes on, they're a little bit less generous with the blocking and the dodging timing. The last boss in this game is, as I said, fucking insane. Thankfully, this game is pretty good about checkpoints. Like, when you're in the middle of a boss, it usually saves the checkpoint you're on with each stage of the boss, so you don't have to, like, you know, get to the last stage of a boss fight, die, and then completely, you know, start from the beginning. You start over again at the phase that you were at before, but yeah, even despite that, I was just perplexed by the last boss. Like, it just took me forever to beat. And fitting for Conan, you recover health en masse by drinking wine, which is pretty cool and in character. This game has a lot of nice touches. You can tell that the people who made this game really knew the Conan stories. Many of the combat moves are named after things from the Howard stories. There's plenty of shapely women to save. It's good stuff. We see Noah O here. He says, congrats. Thank you, buddy. Good to see you here. We see Mephisto Exorcist here. He says, I found your channel a few days ago. Congrats with the 300th subs. Thank you very much. And bear with me, guys, if I sound a little under the weather or I'm a little incoherent. I think I may have COVID. I've been out of work the past couple days with COVID-like symptoms. I'm hopped up on flu medicine right now, so my mind is a little foggy, but the show must go on, as they say. I really wanted to make the stream tonight for you guys because, you know, you folks for supporting the channel and everything that you do as far as commenting, liking, subscribing, just being a great community. I felt like I wanted to keep going, and despite the sickness, put on a stream for you guys. It's one of the few things I can do as far as social interaction now that I have the plague. But yeah, I'm waiting for my test to come back, the PCR test. I've tested negative on the rapid tests, but those could, as far as I'm aware, can be inaccurate sometimes. The person that exposed me to it was someone at work, and she tested negative on her rapid tests before she got a PCR test back and was positive. So I'm kind of thinking that's what's happening with me too. Either that or that I have the flu. Either way. So as you can see there, I did a parry move, and it's pretty cool. I'll try to do another one when this guy attacks me again, but Conan does some pretty cool animations. Cuts off people's heads, stabs them through. It's pretty awesome. This game is sufficiently violent to be a Conan game. It's a pretty good representation of the character. Pretty faithful and pretty well-made game. You know, like right now we're in the Barachan Isles. Staples of Conan's adventures as a pirate. So let's learn some moves here. One-handed combat abilities. You know what? Alright, used all our experience for now. So at least I have the fast strike finisher now. So here we go. I'm going to cut off this guy's head. Brutal. And Ron Perlman's voice acting here is sufficiently Conan, I think. I think he does a really good job as Conan. Come at me, bro. Oh, slice that guy in half. I'm about to do that to this guy, too. Come at me, bro. Come on. I want to show the people all of the parry moves. There's one, too, where, because they pick a random one every time, it seems like, when you do a successful parry. There's the cut-off head one with the one-handed sword. There's the slice in half. There's one where Conan literally, like, shoves his fist into the person's chest and rips their heart out. It's pretty awesome and brutal. But yeah, there's a lot of cool moves like that. It gives a like really nice flow to the combat. See, I don't want to miss anything. I thought this was kind of the alternative path. There's lots of paths to explore in this game where you can unlock extra goodies that upgrade Conan. He'll get like more health. You can get more experience points. So I always try to explore every nook and cranny of the levels. Ah, oh, I got the heart rip out one, but I missed the button press. Let's get drunk. Boom, boom. Here's a chest. Get some experience points there. Let's see if we can buy some new abilities. Let's do elbow stun. It looks like Ricardo Rios is here. Hello, sir. I guess while we're playing here, I'll look to some of the pre-written questions. I think there was only one in the comments, but I'll read that one. It was from Beach Ball, and he says, are there, by any chance, that I may do some of Robert E. Howard's other works on the show? As far as reviews and retrospectives, he'd like to see Solomon Kane focused on. And if not, he also inquired if I would do a review of the 1982 Conan movie. Solomon Kane is not something that's in the cards in the immediate future. To be honest, there's enough Conan stories that I could do this channel for like a decade and not run out of stuff to do. I've done 14 episodes on the Howard stories so far, and I'm planning on doing all of the Howard stories that were published while he was alive. I haven't even finished with those yet. Then there's the ones that were kind of finished by L. Sprague de Camp and some of the other people that he brought in to work on Conan in the 50s with him. Lynn Carter was one of those people. And there were some others as well. But, so, you know, there's those stories. I'm also going to review the stories that L. Sprague de Camp and Lynn Carter rewrote that were originally Call the Conqueror stories. So, you know, there's a bunch of those stories that were originally Cull stories that were rewritten as Conan stories for the 1950s paperback editions of Conan stuff. So those collections sort of back then chronicled the life and times of Conan in chronological order of his life rather than the way they were published. So those sort of filled in some of the gaps, and I think those stories were mostly known as Conan stories because of that later on. I'm not 100% sure of that, but that's at least my understanding. Is, you know, the paperbacks in the 50s and 60s contained those stories, so in their Conan form rather than their Cull form. So I'm definitely going to review the revised versions where they're Conan stories, and those have also been adapted in the Marvel Comics Cull the Conqueror series, so I'll be able to kind of pull visuals from those as well. And I believe Dark Horse may have adapted some of them too, so I can sort of do my visual representation thing with those. And then after those stories, the ones that Howard didn't finish while he was alive, and then the ones that were rewritten as Conan stories by other authors, there's also the stories that L. Sprague de Camp, Lynn Carter, and some of the other writers in the 50s and the 60s run on their own as Conan stories for those paperback collections, so I'll be reviewing those, and there's a bunch of those as well. And then, there's the Marvel Comics stuff that started in the 70s. I'm collecting those in single issues now, so I'm definitely going to review those comics because I'm a big Marvel Comics fan myself, so that will be something that will be fun for me to go through. I'm a big fan of Roy Thomas as a writer. I like Barry Windsor Smith quite a bit as an artist, and of course John Buscema, and some of the other artists that worked with Roy Thomas on that series, both the main Barbarian series and Savage Sword. Excuse me. I think that'll be interesting to go through because, one of the things I think a lot of even comic book readers don't understand about the level of influence that the Conan series had on comic book history is that it was one of the first things to defy the comics code and do the full-on adult comic book thing with sex, violence, darkness, all of that kind of thing, almost a decade, if not a decade, actually, because Savage Sword started in 75. And you don't get things like Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns, which are usually credited with that kind of shift towards the darker comic book stuff in the 80s. You don't get that till like 85, 86, so a full decade before the supposed beginning of the dark turn for an adult turn for comic books. You're getting that sort of thing in the Savage Sword of Conan magazine, the black and white one that Marvel was publishing. So it's very it's very influential in getting the comic book medium noticed and being able to tell more adult stories, of course, because the Conan the Barbarian stories are not an all ages affair. The main Marvel series does a pretty decent job of adapting the character, but at least at the beginning. But once you get to the Savage Sword stuff, that's when they kind of are able to do the Howard stories full justice. Because there are some compromises that are made, in the initial Barbarian series when Marvel gets the rights and starts a series in the early 70s, to make it fit within their line of comics. 5 years into it, when the comic is really popular, Roy Thomas is able to kind of, in a magazine format with John Buscema, sort of do their own thing, but I hate these guys. But yeah, like they really had the freedom in that Savage Sword book to just do exactly what was required to adapt the character into the comic book medium properly, which was you need to have violence, sex, all that kind of stuff. Not necessarily because it's entirely exploitative. There's definitely some of that in some of the Howard stories, especially the early and middle period stuff. But particularly the violence in the Conan stories. I think there's a kind of thematic reason why, and historical reason why these stories are so violent. Because that's the reality of what combat in the ages where swords and axes and maces were the way that people fought each other was. These are weapons designed to slice up people. It's not a pretty thing. And there we go. We ripped out someone's heart. one of the criticisms of this game, as far as Conan canon goes, I suppose, is you do get magical powers that you can use in this game, which, you know, I get the criticism that Conan is inherently opposed to magic. The game does address it at various points, but I do understand that criticism. But from a gameplay perspective, I think, you know, it's it makes some sense. I mean, the sword combat is great, but mixing it up with some other abilities, I think, is a little necessary, especially for a game that's trying to sort of fit into that God of War mold, you know. Oh, there's a lot of guys here. Jesus.
Show me how you fly. Take flight, dog.
Son of a Red Shirt is on here, and I will see what he's saying in a second after I get out of this intense combat situation here. There we go. He says he's a recent subscriber, stopping by to say hi and congratulations on hitting 300. He's enjoying the content, and best of luck with the channel. Well, thank you, sir. I'm glad that you're enjoying this stuff so far. The audience is the reason why I make this stuff. So thank you for being a part of it. And he says, I love the old Savage Sword magazine. He had most of them, even the really way back ones that had some nudity, and surprisingly enough, not that he's crazy for comic book nudity, LOL, but fitting for Conan. Yeah, no, absolutely. The nudity in that stuff is really surprising, especially for the mid-70s. I mean, it's crazy some of the stuff they were able to get away with just because it was in a magazine format rather than a color comic book. But, you know, such is the weirdities of comic book publishing. Friedrich Wortham and The Seduction of the Innocent really screwed up the comic book industry for a long time in terms of censorship and, you know, what kind of stories they were able to tell. It really limited the medium. And it's unfortunate. I think in America it really cemented the long-standing perception that the comic books are a medium that are just exclusively for children. And, you know, for anyone who's a comic book fan, you know, we know that's the case. But to the general public, comic books are kind of, or for a long time anyway, I think that perception has definitely changed with the kind of boom of the comic book film. But for a long time, the perception was comic books are the purview of children and weirdo nerds like the comic book guy from The Simpsons, you know, people of that ilk. And, you know, for people like myself and, you know, I'm sure other people who are big comic book fans, we always knew that wasn't the case, and it was kind of, like, frustrating to have, you know, such a great storytelling medium sort of viewed that way. But even though that kind of perception is changing, the residual effect, I think, is still that comic books are a very niche storytelling medium in the United States in a way that they aren't in other cultures where comic books have had a significant impact on their society's popular culture. I mean, you look at Japan, manga is read by all ages of people and viewed as a legitimate art medium. I wish in many ways America viewed comic books and animation both in the same way that Japanese people do. Because in Japan you can tell adult stories in animation and Japanese comic books. And they're read by everybody. And, you know, they're viewed as real and legitimate pieces of art. And I don't know, I think that's awesome. I wish that was something that we did here as well, you know. Oh boy, I hate this part.
I'll send you to prom to join your men.
Come on, boys.
You're a bull dog. And all that goes to beats a pack of mutts, eh?
Ugh.
I can smell it. You'll fall, same as the rest.
So you just have to wait till they're done attacking.
I'll cleave your skull to the teeth.
It's a timing game and waiting for them to lower their defenses. Come on, guys. Start swinging at me. Oh, shit. Seeing with the other guys in the way here. Let's drink some wine, folks. Ooh, that guy got beheaded brutally. Oh, see, it's once they hit you once, you get caught in their attack chain. Boom.
Excellent.
We love it, folks.
I need to trigger all three.
These are one of the goodies that you can find from exploring every nook and cranny. They are circles on the ground that you stab your sword into, and they're more cleverly hidden than these. This is just kind of an example about what they are. It's as a tutorial. But they expand your health bar, your energy bar, and your rage bar, which is especially useful later on in the game, as you'll be required to sort of be dealing with more complex and skilled enemies. These chumps are a cakewalk compared to some of the later enemies in the game. We don't like archers, folks. There we are. We're slicing off everybody's head. Come on.
Face prom now.
Alright. Oh, we gotta jump up here. Yeah, this game holds up surprisingly well. I would highly recommend this game to people that have Xboxes on the backwards compatibility program. I think it's relatively cheap. I don't remember how much it was when I bought it on the Xbox store. I could probably check, but I don't remember off the top of my head, to be honest. I'm also not sure if it's available on the PlayStation Store. I know PlayStation does have some backwards compatibility with some of the old PS2 games. I don't know if they do PS3. from what I understand, PS3 can be difficult to emulate because of the way that console's processor was functioned or something. I don't know. I don't pretend to be a hardware expert. I know nothing about computer hardware, really computer software in terms of like coding or anything. I'm a noob when I know how to use computer software, but the ins and outs of that world is totally alien to me. I'm a dummy. All right, let's take down this boat. So yeah, if anyone else has questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Anybody watching? Let's see. Let's shoot him over here. Think again, pirates.
She's useful.
I do like the queen in this game. She's a pretty spunky lady. Good fit for Conan. Sort of a more morally upright Belit, I would say. These things usually save, but for some reason my Xbox thinks that I'm not signed in, so what can I say? Oh. I can't save, so hopefully that doesn't disqualify me from using checkpoints. Ooh, a shield. That's what I've been looking for. You are one ugly motherfucker. Line from another classic Arnold movie, The Predator. There's actually, I found a YouTube video the other day of Arnold looking at the first issue of Jason Aaron's run on Conan at Marvel, where he has that shot of Conan sitting on the throne of Aquilonia as the king, and he says, "Wow, this almost looks like me." And then he like reveals, you know, the variant cover where it's a photo of him as Conan on the cover, and he says, "But this definitely looks like me." He says, "This is a movie I've wanted to do for a long time. Let's do it." And I would love to see Arnold come back and play Conan again. It would be great if that could kind of like revive his career a little bit, because I don't know, I feel bad for Arnold. He's one of the most iconic action movie stars, and even though he's not a thespian actor, I feel like he's been in so many iconic and classic movies, really good movies, you know. You have his appearances in the Conan films. You have him as the Terminator in the first two Terminator movies. He's in Predator. He's in Total Recall. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Arnold was really good at picking projects, and I feel like directors really knew how to utilize his charisma. I mean, he's one of those guys that, you know, despite the fact that he was just a bodybuilder. I mean, he managed to be in so many great films, and I wish that, you know, there was still room for him in the film industry. You know, I realize now that he's an old man, the appeal of him is, I guess, much less, because, you know, you're not going to see, you know, Arnold's gigantic physique in quite the same way as you did, you know, in the 80s, but, you know, the kind of appeal that The Rock has is not really there anymore for Arnold, because he's an old man. But, I don't know, I really like Arnold Schwarzenegger, much more than a lot of those other, you know, action stars that kind of are really charismatic strongmen types like The Rock. I mean, I don't dislike The Rock. I just don't think he's anywhere near... I don't think he's been in anywhere near the amount of good films that Arnold has been in. I haven't seen a Rock film that has really blown me away. I mean, like, the Jumanji films that he's in are pretty good, but, I mean, they're not science fiction or action movie classics like a lot of the Arnold films of the 80s are. I mean, maybe I'm just not the audience for the type of movies that The Rock makes. That's entirely possible. But I just don't think anyone will remember, like, you know, Skyscraper or even the Fast and Furious films, I suppose, as, like, all-time great classics. Like, Predator is one of those movies, I think that's a great example of how Arnold was able to kind of transcend the archetype that he was casting. I mean, he is kind of like the gun-toting badass action hero stereotype at the beginning of that movie, but the movie is kind of all about exploding that cliche and, like, what if there was something even scarier out there than this type of guy? And that, of course, is the Predator. And I don't know, that movie is just awesome. It's such a cool subversion of what your expectations are going into the movie. I like that when you have the shield, it adds it into some of the Parry animations. It's pretty cool.
This tree will do. You don't stand a chance.
And if you do not listen... Oh no, I didn't mean to do that. I want my shield back. Noah says The Rock has charisma, but in terms of the projects he picks, he's not on the same level as Schwarzenegger. And yes, I totally agree. Well, I guess I'm not getting my shield back because it's too close to that save thing. And that's why I'd love to see him come back as Conan. For a while, there was talks that he was going to get John Milius to come back. There was a script he was working on that was a pseudo-adaptation of The Frost Giant's Daughter, one of my favorite Conan stories. And it basically would have made Arnold Genghis Khan sort of riding out of the frozen north after conceiving a child with the daughter of a frost giant, and she says that in order to have the child, he needs to conquer an empire for her. So he's kind of motivated by a desire to have a relationship with his son, to kind of go out and into the world and form an army and conquer an empire for himself, which I think, could have been a really interesting movie, especially with Arnold being an older gentleman now. It would kind of, I would imagine, be the last hurrah, and Conan would go out in a blaze of glory of sorts and die, knowing that he ensured the safety of his son or something. Kind of similar to the ending of The Northman, which just came out when you think about it. If that's the route they would have went with it, but... The Northman is a movie I want to rewatch. I'll probably do that this week, since I'm cooped up in the house with probably COVID and can't really do anything else. But that was just, for me, one of the best movie-going experiences of the year. That and Everything Everywhere All at Once. Can't recommend that movie enough to people. Noah was actually one of the people that convinced me to go see that movie in the theaters. His thoughts and the thoughts of many of the other people in the Discord group that we have convinced me to see that one, and man, am I glad that I took their advice in terms of what they were saying about it. I mean, that movie was just phenomenal. People should definitely see that. I don't know if it's still in the theater, but if it is, definitely go see it, support it, since it's a smaller movie. Disney doesn't need any more of your money. I don't begrudge people to go see those movies. They're not the Disney stuff, I'm saying. They're not for me, but I understand a lot of people like to watch them. If that's your thing, that's totally fun. That's totally your prerogative. I'm just kind of done with their stuff, but the smaller movies definitely can use your support much more than the newest Marvel or Star Wars product, because they're going to make money pretty much no matter what. Star Wars maybe less so, because they've had a failure at the box office at this point with Solo, and even the main trilogy that they did had diminishing returns because of the quality, but Marvel is pretty rock solid. No matter what they crap out, it seems like that will make money. Are there any shields that I can grab around here? Yes, there are. Alrighty. Oh. Let's get some wine before we move on. I forget who it was, but someone was asking me about what I think about Marvel losing the rights to Conan in the comic books. And he's asked me on a few videos. He's a frequent commenter. I feel bad that I don't remember his name off the top of my head. I am totally drugged up on flu medication right now, so please forgive me. But I want to thank that individual for being such a supportive commenter and being interested in my opinion on such things in the first place, because that's never a given. I normally just don't expect anyone to be interested in my opinions, but I'm very appreciative that for some reason some people are. But anyway, he asked me what I thought about Marvel losing the rights to the comic book stuff, and I'm of two minds about it, to be honest. I on the one hand, I want to avoid giving Disney any more money than I already do, because they own Marvel and Star Wars, which are my two favorite things, and I other than Conan, and I feel like they've mishandled those things so royally that I don't want anything to do with them anymore. But the Marvel really is and should be the the comic book home for Conan. And I don't know, I do sort of lament the fact that we're not going to be able to. Excuse me. Oh, sorry, fatigue is another symptom of COVID. I do lament the fact that we're losing what I thought would be the kind of triumphant return to Conan's traditional home for comic books. And Marvel was honestly doing some really cool stuff. I mean, Jason Aaron is one of my favorite comic book writers, and Conan is one of his favorite characters. You can tell I'm a big Thor fan, so I've read all of his Thor run, and much of that stuff is very inspired by Conan. There's the initial story with Gore the God Butcher sort of goes through 3 periods of Thor's life. You start with the young, wenching, drinking and slaying Thor of a young age, which is very inspired by the early periods of Conan's life when he was doing such things. Then you get the Mighty Avenger Thor, which is kind of the current day one, which is the kind of Thor you're familiar with. And then there's the King Thor, which is very much inspired by the King Conan stories that Howard did and other writers did in subsequent years. Thor is obviously not the same character as Conan. He's much more of a good person than Conan is. Not that Conan's a completely evil person, but he's a bit more of an anti-hero than Thor is, obviously. But Jason Aaron, when he got the Conan gig, he said that Conan is one of his all-time favorite characters in general. And when the Marvel people got Conan, they said, Conan to them is a Marvel character, because that's the first exposure that many people of this generation working at Marvel had been exposed to the character, was through Roy Thomas's stuff. I mean, after all, the only reason that the Schwarzenegger movies got made is because of the popularity of the Marvel Conan comic books. So, I mean, it's very fitting that would be the home for Conan's modern comic books. Now, do I think that Marvel not having the rights to Conan does have some positives other than Disney, me not having to give money to Disney? Yeah, I think so. I think, Disney just in general and Marvel having the rights to almost everything that kept licensed comic publishers like Dark Horse afloat is very troubling to me. You look at Dark Horse's output in the 90s and the 2000s as far as licensed comic books. They got the rights to Conan in either the late 90s or the early 2000s, and they published a lot of great stuff. Obviously their Alien vs. Predator comics, all that kind of stuff. All of that stuff is all at Marvel now. And of course Star Wars is one of the legendary Dark Horse things. I mean, the expanded universe would not be what it is without those runs of Dark Horse comics. Even stuff like Knights of the Old Republic was partly based on the stuff that was the foundations that were laid for that Old Republic era in the Dark Horse comics. And now all of that stuff is at Marvel. Dark Horse is kind of just bleeding all of the things that had, I would imagine, brought great revenue into the company that kept it afloat. I mean, it's not like they don't still have some things. I mean, they still have Hellboy, which is a property that's been adapted into film, and it's nothing to turn your nose up at. I mean, Hellboy had 2 really great films by Del Toro, and unfortunately the reboot didn't turn out that great, but That is something that definitely sells. I don't know what the status of Sin City is as far as if they hold the publishing rights to that indefinitely, or if Frank Miller is going to kind of take the publishing rights to that with him with his new publishing venture. He's starting a new publishing company with Dan DiDio, apparently. I don't know if that will mean that everything Frank Miller has done that isn't on a licensed character will go with him to that company or what, but if they lose Sin City too, I mean, that could be pretty detrimental, because I would imagine that is something that just keeping that in print was just printing money for them over the years, because Sin City, while it's sort of a niche thing, I mean, Frank Miller is enduringly popular as a creator. I mean, he's one of the greatest visionaries that's ever worked in the medium, regardless as to what you think about his current output of work in the 2000s and later. I mean, it's undeniable that he's one of the greatest people to ever work in comic books, going back to his work on Daredevil, and then, obviously his Batman work and Sin City, all of that stuff. I mean, Frank Miller he's just a visionary. So this is our first boss battle here. But anyways, yeah, excuse my tangent rambling about Frank Miller. I think one of the good things about the Marvel losing the Conan license is that it'll be one less sort of notch in their Infinity Gauntlet as far as owning the comic book rights to everything and monopolizing the industry. The one concern I have about it is the people that own the Conan rights seem to have indicated that they're going to try to publish comics themselves, which, is a noble endeavor, I suppose. The thing that really worries me about it is I don't think they'll have trouble finding distribution. I mean, I think Diamond will distribute whatever they end up coming up with, and because public domain Conan comics from Blaze Comics are being distributed by Diamond right now, and I don't think that they'll have any trouble convincing Diamond to distribute Conan comics based, with the official Robert E. Howard license and all of that. I don't think that'll be a problem. The concern that I have is, will they be able to get the level of talent on those books necessary for them to gain enough attention to sell? The one good thing about being at Marvel is you don't really have to worry about that. Anybody that works in the comic book industry, Marvel is kind of working at Marvel or DC is probably a dream that one of them has had at some point. I know a lot of people have been kind of disillusioned by the practices of Marvel and DC in terms of screwing people over with creator-owned characters, and people like Jack Kirby and Ditko, and even modern people like Brubaker, who have made creative contributions to the Marvel Universe that have made Marvel and Disney millions of dollars through movie adaptations and such, and getting no compensation for them. I totally get that. But I guess I'm talking about, the people currently working in the industry that want to pay the bills. Marvel and DC are the places to be. If you're just concerned about, I want to work in the comic book industry and I want to be able to do it as a full-time job, I mean, those are the places to be. It's just the reality of the situation. Will a independent rights owner of one character, well, it's not one character. Their endeavor, I suppose, from what I can gather, is to sort of do a publishing line of all of Robert E. Howard's characters. They plan to do, I would assume, a Solomon Kane series of comic books. I assume they'll do Call the Conqueror, and all the other Howard characters. Will they be able to attract talent in the comic book industry that will get mainstream attention for those books to sell? I don't know. You know, will they be able to get people to produce Conan comics on the same level of quality as was happening at Marvel? Because, you know, I mean, Jason Aaron is just about the best person that I think you could have gotten to work on Conan. You know, and he seemed pretty happy doing those King Conan miniseries after he finished up his 12-issue run on the main book. Plus, from what I hear, Jim Zub was doing a great job on those books as well. I haven't read his run as of right now. I plan to. But are they going to be able to put stuff out with that level of quality? I mean, it remains to be seen. I hope for the best. I hope they're able to. But that's just kind of my main concern. How much, if at all, will the quality of the comics suffer? I think just not being a Marvel comic anymore already does enough to kind of damage the mainstream viability, unfortunately, of Conan in the comic book industry. I mean, that's just the nature of the industry, unfortunately. Like, if you're not a Marvel or DC comic, not a whole lot of people pay attention unless you're, you know, some hotshot creator at a Image like Brian K. Vaughan or Robert Kirkman. You know, that you know, you put out a book like Saga or The Walking Dead or Invincible, you know, and it finds mainstream success. But those stories are few and far between, even amongst, you know, the creators at Image. You know, there are a lot of great comic books at Image that I've tried. Like, I've read some of Ed Brubaker's work at Image, and you know, it definitely deserves to have mainstream attention, but it just isn't able to break through because it's just not a Marvel and DC comic book, and unfortunately, those publishing houses kind of have a duopoly stranglehold on the industry. And DC's market share is falling every year, it seems like, unfortunately. I mean, anything that's not Batman doesn't even compete with the sales of, like, Moon Knight anymore, which is nuts, you know? Like, to think that Moon Knight outsells Superman is, you know, an insane thought to me, even as someone that grew up, you know, reading the comic books in the 90s and the early 2000s. I mean, that's kind of an inconceivable notion. But it's just the nature of the way that things have developed in the comic book industry, and how, I guess, royally DC's brand has been screwed up by the people running DC. I mean, the people who ruined Marvel in the 90s and drove it into bankruptcy were the people that kind of have taken over DC when they tried to relaunch it with the New 52, and have been struggling ever since to kind of find some sort of success ever since then. I mean, I like Jim Lee as an artist, but he's not the guy I would have taken the advice of as to who to hire. You know, like Bob Harris, the guy that they hired as the editor-in-chief of DC. That's the guy who was the editor-in-chief of Marvel when they went bankrupt in the 90s. Just, I don't know. Not a good decision. I don't think. But, well, you know, but then again, I'm just some Yahoo on YouTube. What do I know? I'm just saying, as an outsider, it doesn't look like a good idea to me. I guess it looks like we got some more comments coming in here. I will read them after I get through this boss battle, because I don't want to die, because I'm not sure if checkpoints will save, because my Xbox doesn't think I've signed in for some reason. This guy is a boss that you have to fight again towards the end of the game, too. He kind of gets resurrected by the evil wizard that you fight at the end of the game that turns into a Lovecraftian monster. But this guy... Oh, shit. This guy gets much more difficult in the second appearance that he has. This boss is... I mean, I've beaten him before, so I kind of know his attack patterns and everything. As you can see, I'm taking very minimal damage from him. Oh, shit. But, yeah, he has like a giant sword later on in the game. He has a couple of lions. Oh, and this is brutal here. Alright. So, Sword Movies and Arts says, Dan, congrats on 300 subs. Thank you very much. Jacob Sedlak says, Jason Aaron was a good match for Conan, but for personal reasons I do not like his Thor. Giving Thor a Captain Urstaz, Lex Luthor / Elon Musk, where Minotaur Nemesis didn't make sense. And the treatment of Jane Foster's cancer offended me. Well, fair enough. I quite liked all of the stuff with Jane Foster, particularly because it was looking back at some of the early Lee and Kirby issues. I'm a big fan of Lee and Kirby's run on Thor. And in those early issues, Thor kind of gives Jane powers for a day. And his run is kind of like that issue done for like a while, and I thought that was really cool. I thought it was really reverential to some of that stuff, and I thought the plot with the cancer stuff was pretty heartfelt. But I'm not a cancer survivor, so I don't know if you have personal experience with that yourself, or someone intimately that has gone through that something about it didn't sit well with you, and if that's the case, fair enough. But from a young person who hasn't experienced such things, I thought it was quite heartfelt myself. But things strike different people differently,
He did not trust it, but the sensation was not without satisfaction. You bastard. You know how long I've been looking for this?
I know that you just raised your hand to me. You better explain yourself, woman. And quickly.
This man had the power to do what she could not. She needed his help, and so she told him her story. The Black Death came to my island as well. It infected my people, drove them mad with bloodlust.
The cutscenes like this are really cool.
It is no disease, Conan. It is a curse.
I really like the
Come to
artistry.
destroy us. And it's spreading. We'll all be infected before long. The curse can be broken, but only with strong magic, which you now possess. I came here to claim this honor. But you have succeeded where I have failed. And so I am asking you, on behalf of my people, come with us back to Parry.
This is kind of a weird fan thing, but I really like the fact that in this game we get a book accurate Conan with the dark hair and the blue eyes. The blue eyes especially is something that Howard describes about Conan routinely in the stories, his blazing blue eyes. It's a very striking aspect of the character's persona and affect in the stories. And I've always wished that when we adapted him into live action that was kind of translated. One of the actors that I think would be really cool to play Conan, he's probably too old at this point, and I don't know that he'd want to do another action franchise, is Daniel Craig. I feel like he would be a great Conan, just because of like he as James Bond, he kind of brings that cold-hearted man of few words thing that can also be witty. His James Bond is very much that, and he's got the whole piercing blue eyes thing. He looks like a very kind of rugged individual. I feel like if you put I feel like if you put him in like a, if you put black hair on him in like a wig, or had him grow out his hair and had him dye it or something, he could be a great Conan. I'm not married necessarily to the black hair thing. That's the kind of thing where, like, a lot of people didn't like Daniel Craig being cast as James Bond because he wasn't dark haired like Sean Connery and Roger Moore and Pierce Brosnan, all the other James Bonds before. But he ended up being my personal favorite James Bond. I like many of the other actors. I mean, Sean Connery's great. I love Pierce Brosnan, at least in GoldenEye. Because that movie's great, and the other ones are kind of I like Dalton. There isn't really a James Bond actor I particularly dislike other than maybe Roger Moore, but that's more like the movie season than him particularly as an actor. Yeah, Daniel Craig is my favorite James Bond because he's a little bit more like the book James Bond than some of the other portrayals. Connery is kind of like that at the beginning, but I feel like they get into the campier stuff pretty quick, which isn't bad. I mean, that's an aspect of the James Bond film franchise that I think can be fun, and they do get into that stuff a little bit more in Craig's later films, I think, to varying degrees of success, depending on which film you're talking about, but trying to remember how to get on top of this thing here, because as you can see, there's oh, here we are. There's things that we need up there, folks, particularly is that the circle? Yes, it is. So we need that one. We need this one. And we need this one. And we get a health expansion. Do. Let's see. Jacob Sedlak says... Oh, it's another lion. I didn't even realize he was in there. Ugh, the lions. I hate them. Die, you stupid cat. Let's see. Jacob Sedlak says, the Mighty Thor revival and Straczynski's run helped me get over a loss to cancer, life renewed, the promise of second chances, old is new again. Jane's cancer felt too much like a pity party. Well, fair enough. What I can agree with you there is J. Michael Straczynski's run on Thor is awesome. At least before the ending. The ending is very rushed because Marvel Editorial wanted to blow up Asgard for some stupid Brian Michael Bendis event, and it cut his run short, which is unfortunate. But when he's getting to do what he wants in an uncondensed format, I mean, it's some of the best Thor comics ever written, I think. So I'm glad that they were able to help you get through that time in your life, man. That's got to be rough. I mean, I've lost loved ones before. but never to that kind of prolonged battle to cancer. So I'm really sorry to hear that you had to go through that, but I'm glad that, you know, the Thor stories helped you get through it, because, you know, that's one of the powers of storytelling, man. Like, they inspire us. All of that sort of stuff makes us think. So yeah, I mean, that's just the power of storytelling on display right there. I'm glad that they were able to help you. And he also says Craig might be too clean for Conan. That was a complaint for his Bond debut. Oh, interesting. See, I don't know. I don't really see Craig as like a particularly clean-cut guy. I see him as a little bit more of a rugged persona, especially compared to some of the prior James Bond actors. But, you know, in comparison to people like Roger Moore and Pierce Brosnan in particular, I see him as more in the same kind of vein as a Connery type. But hey, I mean, I don't really remember the criticisms of what was going on with the casting. When that was happening, I wasn't following the kind of backlash to Craig's casting really that closely on the internet at the time, because I was pretty young. I mean, I always liked James Bond, but I wasn't that privy to what the fan community online was saying about it at the time, I guess. I just know about that stuff in retrospect, so you perhaps you're right. I hope people are enjoying this game so far, and maybe it persuades some people to check it out, because this game is real fun. I think if you're a Conan fan, it's definitely worth a pickup, especially for the cost.
You spawn of hell!
Well, and Jacob Sedlak says it was the lack of chest hair. Oh, I see. With Conan, I mean, I don't know about James Bond. I can kind of see that if people were married to kind of like the visual aesthetic of Sean Connery, because he definitely was a hairy man on his chest. Excuse me. With Conan, I mean, in terms of how hairy the character is, he's not particularly described by Howard as a super hairy person, other than his long black mane. And, you know, we've had Arnold, who was definitely, I would assume, has a waxed physique in most of his movie appearances, because he's pretty hairless. But and also in most of the artistic renditions of Conan, from the comic books and most of the artists that have drawn him over the years, like he's not a particularly hairy person in terms of body hair, so I think Craig could be good casting for it, but perhaps so. I think it is kind of maybe unrealistic to think that a man like Conan wouldn't be somewhat hairy on his body, but alrighty. So let's see here. Oy.
I'll clean your skull to the teeth.
But going back to the kind of aesthetic appearance of the character in terms of that sort of stuff, I mean, I don't even really need Conan to be, you know, like Arnold Schwarzenegger ripped or anything. I much prefer the look that you know, someone like Jason Momoa had in the reboot in terms of realisticness. I mean, I obviously love Arnold in the role, but I don't think it's like I don't think it's particularly realistic for someone living in an ancient age to be, you know, to look like they've used steroids and, you know, trained extensively with weightlifting to make their body look as, you know, much like a Greek statue as possible. I think he'd look a little bit more like Jason Momoa, where he's like, you know, a muscular guy. He's in shape, but he's not, you know, a complete hulking monster either. In terms of, I mean, Conan is described as a giant, monstrous man, but I think, you know, within the kind of confines of reality of that time, I guess. Boom. And Jacob Sedlak says, which is weird considering as a Gaelic person, or at least a distant ancestor, then body hair is kind of a given, speaking from experience. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. That's very true. He also says Momoa had the right look, but his movie was garbage. Not enough carnage and moral ambiguity. Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you. I mean, that movie just like doesn't work from a basic scripting level. It's not particularly well directed. Some of the performances are baffling. I mean, that movie is just a mess in every kind of direction. Not even just as a Conan adaptation. Just it's just like a poorly made movie, unfortunately.
Die, you cur.
Which is unfortunate, because I think Momoa is pretty good casting for Conan in general. I mean, I don't think he's he doesn't have the blue eyes thing that I was talking about earlier, which, you know, I would have liked to have seen, but, you know, I mean, it's not. It's kind of like the thing with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, where he's like really tall, you know, compared to the character who's like really short in the comic books. Yeah, would I have liked if Hugh Jackman was kind of short and stocky like the Wolverine of the comics? Yeah, but I think Hugh Jackman perfectly embodies the spirit of who Wolverine is as a character. Enough that the aesthetics that are not exactly the same don't bother me that much. I mean, I really like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. So, you know, it's kind of the same thing with Momoa, you know, like he's not exactly the spitting image of Conan in my ideal world, but, you know, I think he's pretty good casting, all things considered, and could have been good for the role. Jacob Sedlak says he should have been more Khal Drogo. Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I think that's probably one of the reasons why he was cast. Because Game of Thrones was on that at that point, wasn't it? I mean, I have not seen all of Game of Thrones, so I'm not aware of when exactly the year that show started off the top of my head, but think at least, that that show was on, and he had kind of played that barbarian role at the time. So. My A button on my controller is sticking a little bit. We don't like that. Oh. Well.
I see you, dragon. I'll clean your skull to the teeth.
Do. Forget if there's something in this. No, I can't go through there. You do get an ability later on that lets you kick through some walls and doorways, so I'm always like forgetting that I don't have that ability yet, or whatever. Or maybe the mechanic just hasn't been introduced yet, I don't remember. But I'm really hoping that we get some sort of live-action Conan adaptation in the near future.
This jaw should come
It'll be
off.
interesting to see. I was upset by the announcement that God of War is getting an adaptation at Amazon, when the kind of excuse for them canceling their Conan project was they had gotten the rights to Lord of the Rings and didn't want to have two big budget fantasy things competing with each other on the same network. God of War appears to be a big budget fantasy thing on the same network as Lord of the Rings. But what do I know? You know, maybe the attitudes have changed at the leadership at Amazon, and they're kind of all excited about this God of War thing because it's more relevant and hip and now with the kids or something. Who knows? I would have liked that the Amazon project to have materialized, because from all indications, from what I've heard anyway, the stuff that I was hearing about the scripts and the people that own the Conan rights, you know, what they were saying about the show, they were really excited about it. Supposedly the showrunner had done a really good job at adapting the stories and stuff. And then, you know, when it kind of fell through at Amazon, when they gave up the rights to pursue Lord of the Rings instead, they couldn't use any of the material that they had already prepared for the Amazon show for rights issues. I guess the contract had some sort of stipulation where they couldn't use the work that they had developed at Amazon to make, you know, to go to another studio and just make the same show. So they had to kind of start over from scratch with a new development team at Netflix, because they were the ones that picked it up. But now that Netflix is kind of in seemingly financial ruin, I mean, who knows what'll happen. I'm not optimistic that Conan show will see the light of day anytime soon, given the struggles Netflix is in. But who knows? I mean, they just also announced the Horizon Zero Dawn show, so what do I know? Maybe Netflix is all in on the big budget stuff despite being bankrupt. I really don't know anything as far as the inner developments of these studios. Again, I am just a Yahoo on the internet, but it's fun to talk about, for sure. And I hope that we do something cool with Conan, because I feel like this is a character that, in a universe really, that would really resonate with modern audiences given the kind of dark fantasy vibe that it has. I mean, it's the granddaddy of all things like Game of Thrones and The Witcher and all that kind of stuff. So, adapt to the original, I say. Jacob Sedlaff says, like Conan's characterization as a war leader and cavalry fighter fits the Hun-Mongol aesthetic of the Dothraki. It could have been like A Witch Shall Be Born, but we can't have nice things, can we? Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that. I would love a pseudo-adaptation of A Witch Shall Be Born. I mean, that story is one of my favorites. So, yeah, one of the things that's really baffling, speaking of witches, from the Jason Momoa movie is Rose McGowan's performance in that movie. I mean, she is just really strange. Crap. Oh, well, I guess that killed it. I guess the reason why she was in that movie in the first place is because she was signed on to do a reboot Red Sonja movie, and that fell through, and then she still, I guess, wanted to be in a Conan thing, so they cast her as the witch in the Momoa movie, which is interesting. They've been trying to get a rebooted Red Sonja movie off the ground for years now, too, I guess, which is fascinating. I like Red Sonja as a character. I just I question the logic of trying to do a Red Sonja project without tying it to Conan. That's one of the things that I think is weird about the Conan and Red Sonja rights being separate, too. I mean, Red Sonja is definitely a character who can stand on her own, for sure. Don't get me wrong. She's a great character, but I don't know. I just I like Red Sonja and Conan, because they exist in the Hyborian Age world. I would like to have a Hyborian Age world where both of those characters exist together, where we don't have to do like what they did in the original Red Sonja movie, where we have to call Arnold King Calidor instead of Conan for because of rights issues. He basically plays Conan, but now he can get up top. Catherine Winnick from History Channel's Vikings is Jacob Sedlak's first choice, but I don't know if she'd be into it since it's too similar to Lagertha. Interesting. I have only seen a little bit of that show. So I don't know if I remember exactly who that character is, but if she's on a show like that, I'm sure she'd be pretty good for it, So yeah. Sorry, I'm just switching to my phone for the comments here because my laptop, I guess, is running low on battery. So let's prop up my cell phone here so I can still read what people are saying. There we go. Okay. Now we can continue forward. I'm going to stay on till about 10 o'clock, so less than a half hour left in the stream. I hope, for those who have been watching, you've been enjoying it. And thank you for joining me tonight. Oh, crap. Eek. This boss is usually easy. I'm just screwing the pooch here. Ugh. Keep messing up the timing on this. There we go.
I've got to keep moving.
Jacob Sedlak says, it seems to have mostly been a private conversation between you and I. Sorry, no, don't apologize. I am glad that you're here.
Rooftop won't last.
We had some other people before commenting, but we've had some viewers before that just didn't want to comment for whatever reason, and that's totally fine if they're just down with watching the stream. I'm fine with whatever people want to do. The head of this dragon boss reminds me of the Dilophosaurus from Jurassic Park. Ah. I am not doing well. God damn. Oy. Oy. Oh no. Come on, dude. Well, hopefully the checkpoint's saved. Alright, it did. Whew. That would have been really shitty if I had to start at the beginning of the game because of the sign-in error or whatever. I will take some time to figure that out, obviously, after I finish the stream here, but it's unfortunate that whatever the issue is. I have a feeling maybe it has something to do with the fact that I'm like remote streaming an Xbox 360 game to my PC, because that's how I'm using OBS with this, is I'm doing the Xbox remote play where you can stream the video feed of your Xbox onto a PC, and then using OBS to stream the video to you guys through that remote feed. It works pretty well. It has some hiccup. I've noticed that it's had some hiccups. But alright. Got through this phase, barely. I don't know why I'm doing so poorly on this boss. Oi! Let's try to see if we can get some health out of these jokers. Come on, guys. Alright. Whoops. Hey, Mr. Dragon Man. Oh, crap. Ah. Alright, I think I've got it figured out now. I'm in a pretty good rhythm. With combat games like this, a lot of the time it's just kind of figuring out the rhythm of the enemies, really. What? Come on. Henrik says, do better then. Crumb is watching. I agree. I should be doing better.
Can't stay here.
Should I go? Yeah, let's go for the chest.
I need more stable ground.
Thank you for the insight, Conan. Everything's collapsing under him. I need stable ground. Yes. I agree. Alright. See, that tongue attack. I feel like... Okay. Well, I immediately get hit by it. That's great. Yeah. Grr. You motherfucker. Ugh, stupid tongue attack. God fucking damn it. Oh, you bastard. I jumped over your tongue and you still hit me somehow. Okay, well, let's try again. I'm really screwing the pooch on this boss. But I will beat it for you guys before I end off the stream. There we go. There's the ticket. So that's one of the things you need to line up to beat this guy. You have to... Fuck. You have to... Dude. Alright, here we go. Let's crank this motherfucker. And beat this motherfucker. Come on! I have to get him down one more time. Yes, alright. I think we just barely beat him. Alright, here we go. Yes! There we are. I don't remember this boss being that difficult when I beat it the first time. Maybe I'm just COVID brain. That's entirely possible.
ripped through Conan's body. He was pulled back into the distant past. He saw two brothers, last descendants of an ancient race. They were guardians, entrusted with the most ancient of this earth's magic. They had taken a sacred vow to
Mephisto, Exorcist, says, "Nice." Thank you, sir.
and brother broke this vow. He took that magic.
There's the dreaded final boss, motherfucker.
It possessed
God, he's so annoying.
his heart black as night. The guardian became the thief. The thief became the murderer. The murderer became the monster.
Legendary Heroes also says, very nice. Thank you, sir.
You wear the second gauntlet.
The sooner I'm free of this accursed magic, the better. I have no love for wizards or their tricks.
Then we will sail to Stygia to find the one who seeks this devilish prize, and then perhaps you shall be free of your burden. We have time to kill before we reach those shores.
And here we have post getting laid, Conan.
Zachary, where is the Conan? Gone. They took her, Conan. They'll feed her to the beast. To the unloving god. Let her go, barbarian. She's already dead. Our share of the treasure is ours.
Conan knew that motherfucker was up to no good. Alrighty. So this is what I'm talking about as far as the magic powers. We get the stone prison armor here. This ability is, I think, my favorite one in the game, probably. It's very useful for fighting some of the higher difficulty enemies later on in the game. So you can use it to turn people to stone and then just easily wail on them and they break in half. So it's a way to kind of cheat some of the harder enemies, and once you get this power and you get your sort of upgraded energy bar, you can do it like 5 or 6 times. So I'll often like save it and then get to a place where there's like a bunch of there's this particular enemy type that has like a shielded a spiked shield that is just particularly annoying. They're not even like that particularly strong. They're just more annoying than anything else. They just take a while to deal with, and you have to have particularly good timing to defeat them. So a lot of times I'll just turn them to stone and call it a day.
She will feed our demons hunger. Scratch like a child.
Doo-doo. Alright, so we need this guy here to fall over, make some rubble, bada bing, and then we will throw that at this wall. Boom. Oh wait, did I miss anything? No, I'm good. Thought maybe there was an alternative path over there. Doo-doo. So it was good to see Henrik and Legendary Heroes here. I hope you guys are doing well.
Die!
There we go. Alright. Let's see. Are there any new abilities we can buy? Not quite yet for that one. I'll wait on that one.
This should burn nicely.
Burn, baby, burn. We can hear the lamentation of the women when we burn down their huts. So one advantage of having the shield is you can block arrows, which is cool. Boom.
Face from now.
One of the streams I do want to do at some point is someone suggested playing through the Elder Scrolls games. Someone suggested Skyrim. I'd like to do it with Skyrim and Oblivion, because I do like me some Oblivion too. I do like Morrowind as well, but Oblivion is in particular my favorite Elder Scrolls game. And play through those games as Conan. I did start a game the other night in Skyrim as Conan, because I hadn't bought the Anniversary Edition content yet, which I did end up doing. That comes with a bunch of the Creation Club stuff, and it does add some pretty cool items and such. I'm a Bethesda Elder Scrolls super fan. I do love those games quite a bit, so getting an excuse to play through those games in any capacity again, I'll take them. You know, it's those games are all-time favorites of mine. Alright, we gotta burn down the huts so no more of these guys keep showing up. Get out of my way, motherfuckers. Because, unfortunately, if you keep these huts built up, they will keep spawning people. Get out of here. Where'd my shield go? Is this it? Nope, that's not a shield. Eek, come on. Ah, he keeps doing a block breaker, bastard. Boom. Okay. need another torch, it looks like. You, sir, are going down.
Let Crom touch you.
Jesus. Yuck.
Watch out. Dog. Watch out.
Yeah, this is getting complicated.
I'll kill you.
See, it's times like this where your parry game really needs to be on point.
Watch out. Distract like a child.
There you go, motherfucker. Taste my blade, bitch. Alright, where's the shield at? Boom. Alright, well, it's 10 o'clock here. I think I'm gonna end the stream in a second here. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching me play this game. And thank you to everyone for helping us reach this awesome milestone of 300 subscribers. I can't thank everyone enough. It's been quite the pleasure interacting with all of you and making video content for you guys to enjoy and watch. Again, like I said, you guys are the reason why I do all of this. If it was just me shouting into the void and not making stuff that people enjoyed watching, I would have stopped doing it. So thank you to everyone, and I hope you have a good night. And I will hopefully see you again for the 400 subscribers celebration stream very soon. All right, so have a good night, guys. Bye-bye.